Hey everybody, it's Jay, and this is going to be another top 5 guns list thing. We get a lot of comments whenever we do these types of videos of I can't believe that this gun is ranked higher than that one and so on, but I can tell you why that is, and that's because lists are very subjective. This one's not going to be any different. These are my top 5 favorite guns to shoot, and they're ranked in order of ones that I like to shoot the most. So, starting at number 5 is the Beretta 92 FS. This, you'll see, is marked Ducks Unlimited, and the reason that is because this was a Ducks Unlimited banquet / raffle gun, I believe. I'm not really sure because I didn't get it from a Ducks Unlimited banquet. I got it from a local dealer who had it very cheap used, and it seemed to be pretty much unfired, and it was well under $400. So for that price, it seemed hard to pass up, even with the, having the Ducks Unlimited branding on it, which, I don't really care. It's a 92, it's a functional gun. This is just a cosmetic thing. It also came with some pretty nice wooden grips, but I found them to be a little too round and a little too smooth for practical shooting, so I ended up just putting the typical Beretta synthetic stocks on there. I've also noticed that under the light, it appears to have a pretty blue frame. I'm not sure if that's typical of 92s, I should say 92 FSs, or if that is a Ducks Unlimited exclusive thing. I don't have a non-Ducks Unlimited 92 FS sitting here to compare to. Something I observed. Pretty much from the first time that I shot a Beretta 92, I knew I wanted one. And the first one I shot was an M9 that Misha had. And what I observed there is that the gun is very smooth. Buttery smooth. The slide is just incomparably smooth. The trigger is also quite good in single action, heavy but smooth in double action. The recoil, because of the locking block, is also quite low for a 9mm handgun. I get 9mm, don't recoil that much that anyway, but this one is exceptionally pleasant to shoot. So combine the very smooth operation, the slide, very smooth trigger, generally smooth overall feel, and relatively low recoil, and this is my number 5 favorite gun to shoot. If I had any criticisms, it's not really the gun's fault. It's quite simply the grip frame does not really fit my hand as well as some other grips might, especially some that you'll see a little bit later on. But it's still perfectly shootable for me. I could see some people with smaller hands having more difficult of a time, and I know that guys with bigger hands, I know Tim over at Military Arms Channel said he has Yeti hands, his words, and that the 92s always fit him quite well, the M9 being no exception. And the M9A3, and I believe the 92X series, I haven't looked very much in those, purports to resolve that issue by having a slightly different grip shape. So I'd like to get hands on one just to see if it fits me a little bit better than the 92 does, but in the meantime, I have a fairly inexpensive gun that I really like shooting. Plus, they're iconic. There's something about these being, basically for my entire life, has been the sidearm of the U.S. military. It's a lot of fun to shoot, and that's my number 5. At number 4 is a gun that you might be surprised to see at number 4, one way or the other. This is a Glock G17 Gen 4. For a long time, I was something of, I wouldn't go so far as to say anti-Glock hipster, but I certainly didn't speak very highly of Glocks. I knew that they were very well functional. A lot of people really liked them. They were easy to pick up and use, and respected them for that. But the very first time I went to go buy a handgun, the first gun that I went and tried and picked up was a Glock, and I believe it was a Gen 2, and quite simply, the grip angle on it, or the grip, I should say, felt like holding a Duplo block, and just felt like kind of a brick in my hand, and I hated holding it. So I ended up going with a different gun at the time, and then pretty much since then, partially, I'm sure, due to the volume of, well, just buy a Glock. Why would you buy this when you could just buy a Glock? Well, there's a lot of reasons why you might go with a different gun besides a Glock, including you know, the grip, comfort, feel, and that's really important with a handgun, is getting one that fits your hand well. It wasn't really until I started getting a lot of PCCs and having a small collection, or really more of a pile, of Glock magazines that I looked into getting another Glock. And I had fired Misha's, I believe it was also a Gen 4 with finger grooves, and it fit my hand quite well. Well, relatively well, for a Glock anyway. So, I got one of these in, and the first thing that I realized is I can customize the crap out of it. These are extremely modular. There's a very, very strong aftermarket support for them, and you can basically make the gun whatever you want, realistically, because so many people make so many different things for them, whether it be sights, triggers, you know, different back straps, mag wells, lights, lasers, all kinds of stuff. You can pretty much find it, something compatible for the Glock. So I set out to customizing it. I put some fiber optics on it. I believe this is a medium back strap with a Magpul magwell, and then a TLR6 laser light combination. And this combination, this setup, has worked very well for me. I really do enjoy shooting this gun. People complain about the mushy triggers, and they are a bit mushy, a bit spongy, I guess you could say, but not at all terrible. I really don't find the triggers to be objectionable in these really much at all for, you know, a duty gun. And this is a go-to gun for me. In fact, I went and shot my CHL qualifications with this and did very well with it. So, so yeah, it went from being a Glock hater to someone who uses a Glock as basically a go-to gun. So very reliable. I'm very accurate with it, and again, just the aftermarket support and customizability is second to none, I think, on the pistol market. They're basically the AR of the handgun world. So what's not to like about that? One of the nice things about opening this up to guns that I just really enjoy shooting a lot, and not necessarily ones that I think are the most practical, is I can include guns like this Polish, I believe these are called the WZ-33. Basically, it's a TT-33 produced, Polish-produced TT-33. These are in 7.62x25, which is a neck-down cartridge, but for all as loud as they are, and for as much power as they feel like they have when shooting, the recoil is really quite negligible. It's got kind of a springy feel when the slide is moving backwards and forwards. And the trigger is single action and not terrible. A little heavy. Some of them vary. The one that I have happens to be quite good. This one, of course, they've added the external safety for import, which is, you know, it is what it is. When Misha was over here one day with a Russian Tokarev, we were shooting not far from my wife's vehicle, and after a few shots, we noticed that the car alarm was sounding. So the first thing that I did was start looking around to see if perhaps we had, you know, had a ricochet or something to set the car alarm off, and didn't, and got everything reset. And then a few shots later, it happened again. And what we realized was the concussion was setting the car alarm off. And that's just, these things produce tremendous fireballs. But again, they're quite comfortable to shoot. The grip is not perfect. You can see there's quite a bit of room left from my pinky there. It's definitely an old school feel, but it's still very fun to shoot. And yeah, a nice important piece of history. And still at this point, you can find Tokarevs of different make and manufacture for not a whole lot of money. And if you like guns, I suggest looking into it if it's something that interests you. A friend of mine came over and shot this one day, and within a few weeks had picked up one for himself, had picked up a Yugo. And yeah, I think if you try it, I think you'll enjoy it. So that was the Tokarev, coming in at number 3. At number 2, we have another Eastern European import. This is actually a Bulgarian Makarov, commonly known as a Makarov PM. The first Makarov that I ever shot was one of Misha's East Germans, and I was very surprised to see right out of the gate at about 15 yards, coming in with no expectations, no experience, that I was able to consistently hit clay targets at that distance. There's something about these, and I don't know exactly what it is, but there's something about these that even though they have a double action trigger, which I'm not extremely well practiced with, I can pretty much hit what I'm aiming at right out of the gate with them, which is really impressive to me for not only a relatively compact firearm, but also a 9x18 firearm. 9x18 is pretty similar to 380, and if you've shot a compact 380, you might notice that they're a little bit snappy. Some more so than others, certainly. But of all of the 9x18s I've shot, the original Makarov, in this case a Bulgarian Makarov, but the original pattern Makarov, is the most pleasant to shoot. And between the Cold War cool look of them, they certainly have a very Soviet look, being relatively accurate for me, and not being especially egregious in the recoil department, I really like shooting it. And this will be one of the last guns I would ever part with, because I really do truly enjoy shooting the Bulgarian Makarov. This example came to me completely packed in Cosmoline. I had to spend a few hours boiling it off, cleaning it off with WD-40, and I was very pleased to see that underneath was what looked to be a pretty low-use Makarov. It didn't seem to have much in the way at all of holster wear, no rust or anything. It practically looked brand new once I got all the Cosmoline off of it, and still there is still some seeping out of it here and there. That's fine, which means the gun won't rust. But yeah, it's unfortunate now that these are in the condition that they are as far as availability. You can still certainly find them on the secondhand market, but it seems like imports have pretty well stopped for the time. And I paid about $350 for mine. I believe Misha said he paid less than $100 for his back when he bought it, and those days are behind us. But yeah, I do really, really enjoy shooting this pattern Makarov. I have a P64, Polish P64, a Polish P83, and frankly, the P83 is totally fine, and the P64 I would almost say is unpleasant to shoot for a few reasons. This I don't have any of those problems with, even though it's in the exact same caliber. So, number 2, Bulgarian Makarov. Last but certainly not least, number 1, the Walther PPQ. Now, the PPQ is yet another one that as soon as I fired one of Misha's, I knew that I had to have it. The PPQ's claim to fame is a 1/10 of an inch trigger reset, which is very short with a very crisp, light break. So follow-up shots are extremely easy to obtain. And there's an older video of me shooting one of these, and I think I shoot about 6 rounds in just under a second. Not necessarily very accurately, but it was certainly possible. That's kind of the big selling point on these. But one thing that the PPQ did is this very ergonomic grip frame. I mentioned earlier that fitment on a pistol, on a handgun, is extremely important. And this gun fits me absolutely perfectly with the regular medium backstrap. The grips look a little strange. They look a little bit like a melted crayon, I think. But there is no other handgun that fits me better than this PPQ. It's like a fitted glove for me. And between that, the very nice trigger, it's my favorite gun to shoot. It's my favorite handgun to shoot, I should say. And would certainly be the very last handgun that I would part with. This is, of course, an original import. This is not one of the updated M2 Plus series with the Browning release. It has the paddle release, which I have come to prefer. Once you get used to it and practice with it a little bit, it's very natural. I do have aftermarket fiber optic sights. I don't remember the brand at the moment. I would really like to get my hands on a Q5 match at some point in the future, like a long slide, because these are just so tremendously fun to shoot. Well, that's my top 5. The Beretta 92 FS, the Glock, in this case, G17, the Polish Tokarev, the TT33, all pretty much shoot the same in my experience, Bulgarian Makarov in 9x18, and finally, the Walther PPQ. So yeah, let me know what your favorite handguns are down in the comments, and if you like the video, please be sure to go click like, subscribe to us if you want to see more content, and check out our Patreon page if you're interested in helping support us. This is Jay, and I will see you next time.